Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 247. And today in this episode, what we're going to talk about is trust and boundaries, right? And what I mean by trust and boundaries is that you have to have boundaries put in place for other people. You know, boundaries are there to protect you. They're there to, to tell the other person like, yo, like this is what it is, right? And lastly, we're gonna talk about trust, because if there's no trust, there's no relationship. I don't care if it's a friendship, a marriage, romantic relationship. I don't care what type of ship it is. If there's no trust, there's no relationship, right? And it's funny because it's like, now that I'm single, everybody I know is coming to me with some sort of issue or whatever it is, and I'm like, do I have like therapist written across my forehead? And a lot of it has to do with people going through the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm like, yo, like you said this 2, 3, 4, 5 times. What's stopping him or her from just doing the bare minimum just to get you back in their good graces? Or just for you to get back in their, just for them to get back in your good graces. And I have been telling people, it's like, yo, it's like, you've been saying that. It's time for you to stand on it. You can't keep telling somebody that we're done or whatever it is, or if they're constantly accusing you of something, I'm like, then why are you there? If you're constantly getting met with the bare minimum, then why are you there? Why are you with somebody who doesn't want to step up to the plate, who doesn't want to get better, who doesn't want to have some good coffee, who doesn't want to get any better, who doesn't want to get any wiser? My dad told me something when I was 19. He said, son, there's 2 types of people in this world. Those who grow older with wisdom and those who just grow older. And he asked me, like, what do you think that means? And I said, man, it means that if you grow older with wisdom, that means you learn from your mistakes. If you grow, and if you just grow older, you're not learning at all. You're just making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I got it all figured out, because I don't, But I try not to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Because if you do that, then after a while, it's like, the one thing I can't stand for is when people want to sit there and blame the other person. I literally tell them like, yo, you can't blame this other person, because it's also your fault too. Like, your inability to have boundaries and stand on them, and like then you want to complain about people doing the bare minimum, or people saying you doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, at the end of the day, if that's the case, then just leave. If somebody's blaming you for something and you know you're doing nothing wrong, then there's no point for you to be there. There's no point for you to entertain that, that relationship. There's no point for you to be in constant contact, and that includes me too. I have this running joke that I tell my friends, like, yo, like if I wasn't me, I would miss me too. And it's not on no cocky shit. It's not on no like, oh, I think I'm better than you type of shit. It's not. What it is that I know my worth, and I know what I bring to the table. I'm never gonna hold you to my standards, because my standards are for me. But what I want you to do, I want you to be the best version of you. I want you to go out there and chase your goals. I want you to go out there and just get things done. Like, you don't have to be a competitive bodybuilder. You don't have to be you don't have to do any of the shit that I've done. But if you talk about your goals and like, all you do is talk about them, after a while, I'm gonna look at you like, okay, like, why are you still talking about this shit? It's been 4, 5, 6 years. It's like, one of my goals that I never got to cross off was to, you know, win the overall, win my class, and then, you know, and get nationally qualified. I didn't win my class, but I got nationally qualified. But for me, and I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me, you know, because the goal was just to do that. And now I'm like, people are asking me like, oh, you doing another show, this and this. Like, nah, bro, I'm retired. I literally tell people I'm retired. I'm retired from competitive bodybuilding because it just, I make more money working my 9 to 5 than bodybuilding will ever provide me, you know, or competitive bodybuilding, that is. But yeah, that's the whole gist of these podcasts, man. It's like I just try to help people understand, and it's like, yo, you can't sit there and blame the other person. You can't sit there and blame somebody else. You got to take some ownership too. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I don't strive to be perfect because it's impossible to be perfect. You know, I just want somebody who just loves me for me. Who wants to spend quality time with me. You know, doing everything under the sun. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I love sex. You know, I'm very, I am very primal when it comes to that. You know, but at the same time, I'm not one of them dudes that just gonna go around sticking my dick in anything, man. It's like, there's got to be some sort of connection where I'm like, I see a future with somebody. You know, I'm not one of them dudes that's gonna just get caught up in a situation where I know I have no business in that situation. It's like somebody tells you, oh yeah, like he or she got to be smart, and all she does, or all they do, I should say, he or she does, I should say, is show you how much lack of emotional intelligence that they have, and you keep making excuses. Now, let's say you get pregnant by a dude, you know, or dude impregnates you, and it's like now they're dealing with it. Or now you're dealing with all this shit that you could have avoided, right? And people are like, what? It's like, yeah. It's like, and then but people be like, well, like you know, you don't expect X, Y, and Z to happen. It's like, no, you can kind of sense it, you know, just by how they act. You know, it's not about, you know, what you think it is. It's not about, you know the false reality that you're living in, or you fell in love with the potential, because you definitely don't ever want to do that. That's a recipe for disaster. I don't care who they are. It's like, put it this way, I know guys who had all the potential in the world. I know guys who were athletically gifted. Where they at? 2 places. They're in the graveyard, or they're in prison because of the choices they made, right? And it's like, you look at that and you're like, damn, you know? And like, that's what it is, man. I think a lot of people don't really put much weight into the choices they make until it's too late. Oh, that's a bar. A lot of people don't put too much weight in the choices they make until it's too late. That is a bar. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write that. Where my pen? Where my pen? I'm gonna write that down. Nope, wrote it down. But yeah, man, it's like that's what it is, bro. You don't you don't want to ever you never ever want to fall in love with potential, and you never want to over benefit the situation. Um, you have to meet people where they at, and you have to leave them where they at. It's like, take for instance, people used to think that, oh well, oh, just because you have a college degree that makes you smart. Like, no, it doesn't. Or like, I know I know girls back in the day, like they put so much stock into into the bachelor's degree, and I'm like whoa, like, you know, they were like, whoa, like my man has to have a bachelor's degree too. And then you ask them what their major is, and they're like, oh, sociology. I'm like, the study of society. Okay. Um, Nowadays it's different. You know, like nowadays women are saying, "Oh, my man gotta have a master's degree. He gotta make $100,000 a year." It's like an X, Y, and Z, and it's like, and then you ask them like, "Well, how much money do you make? Do you have a master's degree? Do you have a post bac?" You know, all these questions, right? And they don't. And I'm like, okay, how can you sit there and have these requirements for somebody else if you don't have the requirements for yourself? Again, it goes back to boundaries. It's like you can't hold, you know, or you can't have standards and boundaries that you want these people to meet, and you can't meet them yourself. And if you're putting all your trust, keyword trust, into a 4-year degree, or you thinking it's because somebody has a master's degree, whatever it is, that they're smart. I've seen guys with master's degrees not be able to hold conversations that don't talk about what they went to school for. I've literally seen dudes not know what the fuck to do with themselves if they're having an everyday conversation and it doesn't involve their degree. And I'm like, how in the fuck did you get through undergrad and graduate school and not have any social skills, bro? You know? People like, what? And I say, yeah, like, how did you get through undergrad and graduate school and not develop any social skills? You know? And then I got people who get married and they don't really know the other person. I've literally had people tell me like, oh well, can you talk to my other half why they don't want kids? I'm like, no, absolutely not. And they're like, why? Because it's none of my fucking business. You know, man to man, that ain't got shit to do with me. You know? And I'm like, and I told you, and it's usually the wives who tell this shit, right? And I'm like, yo, that is a conversation that you should have had with that person well before you guys got married. You know, if you're dead set on having kids, then have that conversation. And if they don't want kids, leave them where they at. Like, hey, they may be great, but they're not worth, you wasting your time and wasting your years and hoping and praying that, that they get it together. It's like, I recently had somebody say that they broke up with their long-term boyfriend. And I'm like, I remember when me and this person first met, I asked them, you've been together for how long? What? And this is over a decade. I'm like, you've been together over a decade and you're not married. You know? Like, where's the boundaries in that? It's like, you can't keep telling somebody that, like, I need a commitment from you, I need X, Y, and Z, and they're not giving it to you. Then after a while, you need to stop waiting around. After a while, you need to realize that it's not gonna be what you want it to be. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they're bad individuals. But they're definitely bad for you. Anything longer than 4 or 5 years in the dating phase, and there's no conversations of you guys talking about getting married, like man, woman, whatever, same sex, relationships, you know, whatever it is, you need to leave. Because it's clear this person doesn't trust you because they don't trust themselves. And it's clear that they lack the boundaries, to understand that, like, oh, like, I can't keep stringing this person along. I can't keep doing X, Y, and Z. Because the last thing you want to do, you don't want to sit there and waste time. And how do you explain that to the next person you date? Like, oh, yeah, I was with this person for, X amount of years, a decade plus. And how do you have that conversation? And another thing, too, is like, and I don't mean to sound sexist or anything like that, but you women gotta realize that all these male friends that you have, they ain't your friends, bro. They not your friends. Like, these niggas are just waiting for a chink in the armor so they can shoot their shot. And if you ain't hip to it, you gonna end up in a whole different can of worms. And it's like, I've seen it happen where it's like, all these women think like, oh, so-and-so's been a friend for X amount of years, whatever it is. I'm like, nah, that nigga's not a friend. He is not a friend. Because if he was a friend, he wouldn't be acting weird as soon as you heard that you were single. Or he wouldn't be, diving into play, Captain Save Yourself with you when he's hearing that you're going through some bullshit. Most dudes, they ain't your friend, man. Not in that situation. Because as soon as they switch up, what's that tell you? They have no boundaries. And they're betting on you not having any boundaries and not trusting yourself as well. So in the grand scheme of things, yes, it's imperative that people have trust and have boundaries, because you don't want to go through life getting burned and like just constantly being, constantly being taken advantage of. I have no problems telling somebody to go fuck themselves. I mean, I'm never gonna say it like that unless I'm really fucking heated. But I'll be telling people straight up, like, oh, okay. Or like, sometimes I'll look at the phone and be like, I get a DM, a text message, and I'm like, yeah, not today. Those are my boundaries, bro. It's like, I think a lot of people, they got it really fucked up. They think just because you have their phone number or because you got social media that you're 24/7 access, right? And reality is not. It's not that. Just because you have access to me doesn't mean that it guarantees a response. People gotta stop thinking that, oh, just because I got Mikey's number, or just because, Mikey's got my number, he gonna hit me up. No. Like, there's several people on my phone, bro. It's like, I have numbers I ain't spoke to in 6 months, but I can call them, and they're gonna pick right up. Or even if they busy, I'm always know that I'm gonna get a response, whenever they're free. I'm one of them dudes who will go to the ends of the earth for people that I love, bro. I may not have much, but what I got, I cherish it, man. And it's like, and that comes with me setting boundaries and trusting myself, like, and me not expecting me from another person. I learned early on that if you expect you from another person, you're gonna lose every single time. It's like when I first started dating, I was for what? High school. I had no game, no social skills. And this is before back in the day when cell phones wasn't really a thing, right? Like, that's how old I am. It's like I remember back in the day where it was after 9 o'clock, it was free minutes, and the weekends was free minutes, and then they switched it from 9 to 7, and like boom, that's what it was, bro. And so like with that being said, Um, yeah, I had to have boundaries with myself. Like I had to, and I was the type of dude. Like if I didn't hear from somebody in a couple of days, I would send a follow up text, or sometimes I would double and triple text, and I'm like, oh, and like nowadays I'm like, okay, it's cool, you know. I send a text. It could be something as simple as, hey, how was your week? Anything interesting happened to me? Happened at the job, whatever it is. Like, if I'm sparking up a conversation and I'm not getting that back, I'm not gonna entertain that. But at the same time, I'm not gonna get in my feelings about it and be like, damn, I really like this girl or whatever it was. I'm like, yo, people get busy. And just because you have somebody's phone number doesn't mean that you have 24 access to them. You know? And the last thing I'm gonna say too is that you have to understand when it's time to walk away from a situation. There have been several conversations I've had with male friends and female friends, and I tell them the same thing. I'm like, yo, how many times can you get tired of having the same conversation over and over and over again until you physically get tired? And a lot of people say, well, it's exhausting to talk to you, this and this and that. Well, it's exhausting to talk to me because when I say me, I'm just saying in general, because you lack boundaries. You don't have any boundaries. You don't enforce boundaries. I had a former friend tell me once, well, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, this and this and that, and I told this individual, like, look, if you're trying to do something, that means you're doing nothing at all. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, if you're trying to do something, that means you're doing nothing at all. Because if you were doing something, you would have implemented those boundaries a long time ago. So stop thinking just because you're trying to do something that, it's working. This is the same individual who would make excuses and shit. And I'm like, yo, like, I can't deal with that because I can't be friends with somebody who doesn't want to better their life. A new occupation, going back to school, whatever it is. If all you do is talk about doing something, and after a while, I'm like, fuck it. Like, why are you talking about this? Like, why do you feel the need to bring this shit up when obviously it's not that important to you? Because if it was important to you, you would be doing something about it. You wouldn't just be talking about it. All right, y'all, this is about 23 minutes of your life that y'all won't get back. Hope y'all keeping the 4 P's private, player, positive, and pushing. I'll see y'all next week. I love y'all. And like I say, know your worth because you're better than what you are. All right, y'all. Peace. Have a great Sunday. Go Ravens. Tough season, though. All right, y'all. Later.